Hello, and thank you for joining us for our session today titled Academic Advising in an Interdisciplinary Program Amid a Pandemic. We're coming to you today from Rochester, Michigan for the AIS 2020 virtual conference. I'm Sarah Jahemiak, and I'm the Assistant Director for Advising for our Bachelor of Integrative Studies program. And I'm here today with my colleague.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Zeig, and I'm an academic counselor and a special lecturer for the department.
And we've included our contact information here for you. We're happy to connect with you. If you have any questions or want to chat about our Integrative Studies program at any time, feel free to reach out. What we thought today, before we actually jump into our academic advising and what we found throughout this pandemic, we thought we would give a little bit of a layout of what our Bachelor of Integrative Studies, or BIS program as we frequently call it, is. So our program at Oakland University is truly a unique major for our students to get in our undergraduate program. It's an opportunity for students to bring in courses. Let's say we don't have a particular major of studies that our student wants to go into for a career. Our students can custom design their own plan of studies where their passions really become their plan of study. And so the basis of it is our students are finishing at a minimum of 120 credits. And in our advising office, we work really closely with our students to help them create their plan of study and picking the coursework that is really going to make sense for their career choices. And we also work with them very closely throughout our application process to get them to major standing. And we're going to chat about that here in just a couple of slides. In addition to that, we do have a faculty council from each of our academic units that works with our students and reviews our students' plans of studies, just to, again, have one extra set of eyes to making sure that those plans of studies are looking pretty good. Our office also offers career counseling and assessments. So if we do have some students that are undecided or unable to decide on a career path, we do work with them through that process because, again, we can't have them pick coursework if they don't really know what they truly want to get into. But the typical student population we see in our BIS office is a non-traditional student. And so this would be anybody that is outside of that traditional 18 to 22, which you might consider going right out of high school into college. Typically, our student is an adult learner. They usually are working full-time jobs. They have families and other responsibilities outside of the classroom. Now, that's not 100% of our students. We do have the typical freshman that comes into our program to complete our degree. And we do have a lot of students that actually end up changing their major from a traditional major at our university over to ours before they graduate. We do see a lot of transfer students. Our office has really great relationships with community colleges in our area and beyond in the state of Michigan. And we do have a really great transfer opportunity for our students. And so we do see a high population of students coming into our major from those other community college institutions. In addition to that, for our transfer students, we really accept just about any coursework to complete a major. And what I mean by that is typically for coursework that may not be accepted in a traditional major, for example, culinary arts or fire science or law enforcement type courses, we accept all of those. And so students can really take those areas of passion to help them build that true traditional bachelor's degree. As far as advising, we work on a high contact strength-based advising approach. And so we're reaching out to students pretty frequently, depending on that time of the academic year. Maybe it's to ensure that they've applied to graduation. Maybe it's to ensure that they have proper prerequisites and other things to move on to the next semester. But we also work on the students' strengths. And so that's a really huge approach for us to make sure that we're leading and we're building up that student in order for them to progress properly and have success in their progression towards their bachelor's degree. We also work on a caseload approach. And so all of our academic advisors in our unit do have an assigned caseload where we particularly are assigned to a student and work with them throughout their entire tenure with us. And as I mentioned before, we do offer career counseling. And so most of our advisors in our office do have career development or career counseling training. And so we can help a student really work to create that best plan of study for them to get them to that career that they're looking to get into.
All right, so the types of appointments that we usually see in our office is an important piece to address before we talk about how we transitioned our office to remote. And so we see several different kinds of students. We see prospective students, students who are looking to transfer to the university from another institution, or even students who are looking to change their major from within the university. We see students for hour-long transfer student orientation appointments, and this is our time that we will evaluate their transcripts and discuss an action plan, and also discuss registration, and then provide some other information about the university. Major standing application appointments. This is something where we typically will see students anywhere from one appointment to possibly four, depending on how much the student needs our assistance with this. And this is where they are working on their application for their plan of study into the major. We also have a required yearly appointment. So we like to see our students at least once a year to ensure that they are on track and to address any issues that they may be facing in their coursework. We see students for their graduation audit, where we audit all of their coursework and ensure that they are set up to graduate. Other reasons why students will meet with us are to talk about any scheduling issues or conflicts, issues in courses, or anything else that is going on with them academically.
In the typical advising appointment, we usually see anywhere from students from 30 to 60 minutes. As Lindsay just mentioned, our 60-minute appointments typically are the transfer orientation appointments. And if a student were just to call to schedule a general advising appointment, that would be a 30-minute slot that they would be seeing us for. But I know that a lot of times with even our prospective students or students that are trying to get their application off the ground and submitted to our faculty council, the 30-minute appointment sometimes is really hard to stay with, because we're not only learning about what the student's past is, what they want to get into, maybe it's the same thing, maybe it's a shift, and we're talking about coursework that might fit in there, we're talking about the application process and our major. And so sometimes with all of that, that 30 minutes is just really hard to stick with. And so but anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes is typically what we see our students for. Right now, our preferred mode is face-to-face appointments. We do have the occasional student that wants a phone appointment. That's okay too. And now, since we've gone remote, our face-to-face communications are through Google Meet. We've been meeting students through Google Meet. Our appointments are confidential and they are one-on-one with the student. If a student does choose to bring an outside person into their meeting, that's fine, they can do that. They just need to sign a waiver acknowledging that it's okay for us to talk about their academic record. Technology is really huge when we're looking at our advising appointments. We're using technology to look at how students are progressing to their degree. We're looking at technology for course scheduling. We're looking at requirements for the degrees. If they were looking at minors or something like that to add in their degree. And right before this, since we do use technology so much, we were very close to a paperless process. But once we got into the pandemic, we were easily able to shift and move that to 100%. We do offer an email follow-up to our students. And with that, it's tasks or things that our students need to complete, or we're letting students know that, hey, as the advisor, we're also going to be completing these things on your behalf. So we're letting students know exactly what we've talked about in those appointments. In addition to that, we do have a campus-wide advising notes system. And so when we do meet with our students, we do put those notes or the email follow-up into our advising system, because that way, if a student were to meet with another unit, let's say to discuss a minor or something like that, that advisor can also take a look at the notes and see what was passed looked at. In addition, as students are maybe transferring into our major, we're able to look at and see where the student has been with a history with the other academic advising units as well.
Okay, so the heart of what we do in our office is the major standing application process. And this is what makes us really unique from a traditional advising office. So we work with students to help them to develop their individualized plan of study. And there are several pieces to the application process for making that become official for them. The first step is helping the students to select the courses for their plan of study. And so what this means is talking to the students about their career goals, their career and educational goals, and thinking about what types of skills do they need to develop, what knowledge do they need to be successful in that field, and what courses can help them to develop those pieces. And so We work with students to offer some suggestions of courses, but encourage them to make that decision for themselves of what is the best course to choose. And this really develops a good component of ownership over the courses. And so our students tend to do really well in their classes because of this. So once the student has selected the courses for their plan of study, they will then complete their rationale. The rationale is 6 questions that is asking them about their education background, their career goals, and most importantly, why they chose each class. And so our faculty council wants to really see and understand the reasoning behind each one of their course choices. We also challenge the students to talk about how their plan of study is integrative. So, how does everything blend together? How does it become a true interdisciplinary experience? And so students will complete all of those pieces. They will then send it to their advisor for review. The advisor will offer any suggestions or changes that need to happen and then assign them to a faculty mentor. The faculty mentor is one of our professors at the university who is an expert in the career field or education field that the student is considering for their plan of study. This gives the student the opportunity to meet with somebody who knows about the field, make a connection with them, and they can offer any suggestions for other courses for them to take or maybe things to do to become better prepared for that field. There's a form that the faculty mentor and the student both sign, and then all of those pieces go forward to our faculty council for review. So each one of our students' plans is reviewed by the admission committee, and once it's approved, that is the major that we build for them in our degree audit system in order to graduate. We have faculty council admission meetings after each application period. So we have 5 of those meetings per year where the faculty council meets with our advising team and we go over each and every one of those students' proposed plans. Once their plan is approved, the student is notified that they have moved into major standing or if there are any changes that need to be made to their plan of study.
So the pandemic really kind of threw all of our institutions into a tailspin, if you will. The state of Michigan, particularly at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, was really a hotspot for cases, and our cases were growing exponentially. And so our university took it upon themselves to hit a pause button and suspend courses. As you can see, the timeline that's listed there on March 11th. And so that gave faculty a couple of days to move all of their coursework online. So at that point, the university said, we're no longer going to be seeing students face to face. Everything needs to be moved remotely. And so as an advising office, we did the same thing. Once we got the word that all of the coursework was going remote and everybody was kind of dispersing from campus and working from home, our team met that next day and we were ready to go remote that day. I want to say that we officially did it that Friday, and by Monday, when classes resumed fully online, we were also fully online. Our advising moved, as I mentioned, to Google Meet, and so we've been meeting students that way. And I don't know if we're going to be continuing to do Google Meet, as our university has recently signed within the last few months a contract with Zoom, so we may be choosing to do that. But for now, the Google Meet has been working really well, and our students understand that platform pretty easily. Our faculty council meetings and our staff meetings have also moved remote. We've been doing, again, everything through the Google Meet and through our Google documents, as well as we're working with our other staff members to share meeting notes and do things that way. Our forms have all been moved to an electronic format as well. So our change of major process, our academic advising worksheet that we have with our students, and all of our application documents are things that we can share easily between students and staff via email. And we can also upload those to our proper systems as we need to.
Recruitment. So, recruitment is another piece of our program that is really important for advising units and also needed to move online. So, this was something that obviously was unexpected when the pandemic hit, and everything had to be rethought of how we can do this. And so, it required a lot of creative thinking. So, recruitment is a big impact for the Integrative Studies department because um, students don't always find us on their own. They are usually referred to us. And so other units will refer them to us, and we oftentimes will meet students at different recruitment events that are hosted by either our department or by our admissions office. And so we're very active in that, and we really enjoy meeting with students there and explaining the program and talking about how they can individually really benefit from the program. And so we do that through information sessions, which we were able to move those online as well very quickly. And so we learned how to use the technology, learned how to advertise and market for these events, and then host them, and then also follow up afterwards, which is what we found was really the most important piece, is that follow up afterwards, so that we can talk about each and every one of their individual goals rather than just hearing about the program in general, but more how can they use it for themselves. We have a Golden Grizzlies graduate program, which is a step out initiative that is actually really initiated by our admissions department. And this is an effort to contact students who are very close to graduation and try and see what they can do to finish up their degree. And so this program works really well because what we have found is that a lot of students stopped out of the university because they were no longer interested in the major that they were pursuing, or maybe they weren't doing well in it. Maybe they left for full-time work. And so they're looking to finish their degree and maybe with a different focus. And so we can help them to complete their degree with our program by meeting their individual goals with their coursework. We hosted some community college advising days, and so we worked with our local community college partners and offered days that we advised just community college students. So we've got some great programs that reach out to the community colleges so that we are more of a 3+1 kind of program. And so we really help those students to maximize those transfer credits. So we did that, and we were able to do that in an online format. And then we did some specific outreach through our department on its own. So we did our own step out initiative. So looking at our own students who have not completed their degree but are close to it. And what we did is we did the legwork and found out, what do these students need to graduate? And then we did everything we could to find a way to contact them. So one of the issues that we found was that sometimes their email was not up to date. Maybe they didn't use it anymore. So we got really creative in finding ways to contact these students. Also did some outreach to students who weren't registered. And so we reached out to students who were not registered for the summer semester and the fall semester. And we're currently working on students not registered for our winter semester to say, hey, is there anything we can do to help? We've got some resources available for you. We're here to help you with that and help to talk them through it and see if we can get them to register for classes and complete that degree that they're so close to finishing. Another outreach program was helping to identify what students were missing prerequisites. So if they're registered for a course that was missing a prerequisite, we reached out to them beforehand so that it wouldn't be an issue when the course started. And then our early alert faculty feedback program is one where faculty can identify students who are struggling in their course early on. And so then their advisor can follow up with them individually and say, hey, how can I help? So since we're on the caseload advising, our students are very familiar with their advisor. And so it's somebody that they're really comfortable with talking about what's going on in their life. And so then the advisor can offer ways to help them to be successful in that course.
And so throughout moving to remote advising, we've actually found quite a few positives in the outcomes. As far as our traditional advising goes, we've seen a huge reduction in no-show appointments. And so probably on the daily, we would have either a student call and either cancel their appointment right before their appointment, or they would no-show. And I think to date, we've had 3 total no-shows since March, which is huge. People haven't forgotten about their appointments, or if they're running late, they run into traffic, because are in a major kind of metropolitan hub here where traffic can be pretty unpredictable. And so students aren't calling right before their appointments that they can't get to them. They're rolling out of bed if they need to and getting through their appointments that way through the Google Meet. So that's been really great for our office and our, continued connection to our students, especially during the pandemic. We've also seen an increase in availability to meet with advisors. And so even if folks might be at work, they can easily step away from their desk and meet with us via Google Meet. They're not trying to have to juggle, what do I do with my kids? Do I have to leave work early? Do I have to leave work extra early to avoid traffic to get to an advising appointment on campus? They can easily just log in, step out of their office or away from whatever they're doing to connect with us pretty easily. We've also seen an increase in information sharing. And so it could be the fact that with the bullet below that the students are seeing as more a normalized version of an advisor, like we're actual real people. They see us in our houses, they see us with our children. They see us maybe in a little bit more casual clothing than they would see us in the office. And so maybe that has led to an increase in information sharing, or just generally, I mean, a pandemic can be a time of fear and unknown, and students have really been expressing that with us. And so we've been able to work and get students the related necessary referrals if needed. Advisors have also reported an increase in time management for themselves. And so working remotely at home, it's pretty easily just to go and switch out the laundry if needed to, if they were in between meetings or on a lunch break. And so we've seen an increase in time management and that work-life balance, and that's been a bit of a blessing for our advising staff. As far as recruitment goes, we have seen an increase in our relationships with our admissions staff. And so as Lindsay mentioned, that recruitment is really huge for our office. And we've been a bit of a hub for our other advising or recruitment counterparts on campus. They really want to meet with us because they realize that our interdisciplinary program is amazing for students that are coming over to Oakland University. And so people are really truly becoming more invested in what we're offering for our students. And as Lindsay also mentioned too, we've become really creative in the ways that we've been able to connect with our students, or trying to reach out to them and find them and make sure that everything is going okay. We have recently issued video resources for workshops because, as I mentioned before, our students are pretty non-traditional. And so making sure that they're aware of the technologies and how to utilize them, how to make sure they've downloaded all the proper technology to make sure that they can attend class has been pretty huge for us. And so whatever we can do to make sure our students are connected and in the information is what we're going to try to do. So we're going to keep moving forward with those initiatives as well.
All right. So, along with the positives, there were, of course, some challenges that we faced as well. And so, a lot of those have kind of changed as the time has gone on, right? And so, in the beginning, some of the challenges that we saw were connecting with students. Since a large population of our students are non-traditional, we have some students that are in the older age bracket, and so maybe not as comfortable with technology. Or the other thing that we saw too is lack of access to the technology that they might need. So some of the issues were logging into the video chat into Google Meet, poor internet connections. So we saw some students that, their internet just couldn't quite handle the video chats that we were trying to do. And then, of course, our events. So we always really relied on our in-person events and seeing students and talking to them and making that connection, building rapport. And so we had to really think creatively and find ways to do that differently. So that was a big challenge. Distractions for our students. We found that during their advising meetings, they were maybe at work, so they were a little distracted. Their work phone might be ringing. They might be having something else that they needed to stop doing during our meeting. We saw that sometimes students were in the car driving, not necessarily themselves driving, but maybe being the passenger. And so it's just not as easy to 100% focus on what they're doing. So they were trying to multitask, but when we're in an advising meeting, we do want their full attention. Also, distractions of things in the home, like children and pets and just other things that happen, a package arrives or who knows what. So those are some distractions that we saw with meeting with students remote. Documents. One of our biggest challenges was getting an electronic signature. And it seems like a very simple thing that we were so used to was our forms. So our forms that we had students sign, and we were very close to paperless already, but we still wanted the signature. And so as students met with their faculty mentor, they found ways to do that online, but then actually getting that physical signature was a bit difficult. Most of our students didn't have a printer and definitely didn't have a scanner. So we had to find some ways to do that, and actually found some pretty cool apps and different things that you could do with your smartphone to scan things. So that worked out. We were pretty much, willing to do anything to help the students. So we were even taking just kind of a statement from them at some points. Another challenge that we saw with our staff was that we were really missing some of those impromptu office collaboration meetings where you just stop by someone's office and you want to just say, hey, how was your weekend? And then all of a sudden, by the end of your chat, you've developed some great idea, or you've had a chance to talk about a student and go through the process some things and think about things a little bit differently. So we don't really get a chance to do that when we're online as much. So we did start to have a weekly staff meeting, which really helped a lot so that we could get a little bit of that back. And so that's one of the things that was definitely a challenge during remote advising.
And I would probably say too, like one of the challenges that I just happened to think about as we were talking, and that kind of leads into some of these observations too, is now that we've been into this for going on 8 months plus now, we're starting to see students that are pretty fatigued when it comes to online. So they're on their classes all day, and then to have an appointment with us, it's been really challenging for us to even offer social connections with our students. So we used to offer a couple of times a semester an opportunity for students to come to a program that we would be offering, and students are just kind of not wanting to log in anymore. And I think that they know we're here, they know we're available, and so connecting with us socially isn't necessarily a priority for them. I think they would just rather kind of log off and just be off of their systems. And so, yeah, I think that's one of the things that we're going to need to be working on moving forward as an advising office is how do we continue to connect with them in that way? Maybe not online then, right? How can we kind of begin to make those changes that way? But taking a look at some of the other observations that we have among this pandemic is that we've seen students reaching out to us that have been fully into their plan of study, into their major standing, and they say, hey, you know what, I want to have a career that's a little bit more meaningful. Like maybe I've been kind of working on a track that's in the business field, but now that I see all of the healthcare workers and everybody that's on the front lines putting themselves at risk, really helping other people, I want to do that too. I want to be in a more helping profession or something that's going to mean more to me than necessarily the paycheck. We've also seen students say, hey, you know what, I'm pursuing this career in the medical area, and I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to put myself at risk. I'm scared. That's not for me anymore. That's fine. We've been able to make some changes for those students. We've also seen an increase or more availability for students to persist towards that degree. And so maybe typically if a student had been working full time, had the full time family, maybe taking a course at a time because it's hard to get to campus, once, twice, 3 times a week. But now that everything's kind of online, we've seen some increased availability in doing that. And so students are like, yes, I can finally do this. It's easier for me to get online and take a class right now. I'm gonna go for it. People are also more interested in completing those degrees online. So particularly for our population for integrative studies, they really do want those online classes. And so now that, again, some of those classes that may not have been offered online before are offered in the online format. And so students are really taking advantage of that opportunity. We've also seen a little bit of the free time sparked interest in degree completion. So students are coming back, as Lindsay mentioned, through our Golden Grizzly Graduates program, for example, and they're saying, hey, now's the time. I've got a little bit of extra time on my hands. I'm working remotely. I might as well take a class while I'm doing this also. And as I just mentioned, the course access. So sometimes courses were only offered Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon, which is kind of hard for a full-time employee to get to a class. Well, now that it's online, everybody's rocking and rolling that way. And we've really talked to students throughout this time, and they really have a renewed reflection and renewed purpose for what their goals are and what they want to do. And we've really seen it's been really uplifting to see students, and they want to complete their degrees, and they're pursuing them at a little bit more of a rapid pace than we've seen before. So that's been exciting to be present for that.
So moving through and beyond. So Sarah pointed out to all of us that we're going on 8 months here, and our office is planning to continue to advise remote for until we're directed to do otherwise. So we're in this for the long haul, and we want to continue to keep our students safe and healthy. So what we're going to do in our office is continue outreach to students. So we've seen a lot of success with our outreach program, and we get a lot of satisfaction out of that as well. So we're seeing students who maybe thought that it was not going to be possible for them to complete their degree for one reason or another. They've been out for a while and they had sort of given up hope. And then they hear from us, and all of a sudden they think, you know what, I can do it. And so we want to continue to reach out to the students that way. We want to continue to increase our access for technology information. And so continuing to move things online, continuing to work on our electronic forms, improving those, making them easier for students to use and for us to use. It's going to help us to be more efficient with our jobs anyways. And so we were forced to learn it. And so now we want to take it to the next level and do it really well. Also, we really want to capitalize on the fact that more classes being online, that it's increasing the accessibility for some students to earn their degree. We find that some students have moved out of state. They maybe weren't able to complete their degree. Now they might be able to do that. And so our department is working on becoming a fully online option so that students can be able to do that from anywhere and be able to complete those career goals. So we actually are taking on 2 interns for this winter semester, which has been kind of another piece with the pandemic, is that our graduate students are sort of faced with a tough situation right now where internships and projects are a lot more difficult to do since offices aren't working the way that they usually do, and we can't even have our full staff in the offices. So we're taking on 2 master's level students who are in our higher education leadership program to help us with some of these projects of moving things online, as far as forms go, recording some video tutorials and other things to really support our students. So it's going to help our students, but it's also going to help our master's level students too in gaining some experience so that we can help to train this next generation of professionals.
We're very excited about that because, as I just mentioned, even in those 8 months, a lot of our processes and offices and students have been evolving throughout this whole pandemic. And so, for Lindsay and I, as we were just discussing, it's been really great for us to sit down and kind of talk about how we've been adaptive and evolving throughout this as an office and particularly as advisors. And so, if you want to connect with us, we would love to connect with you. I think it's really great for an opportunity for interdisciplinary offices to chat amongst one another, to see what other offices are doing for their students. I think we've got a really great thing going, but if we can increase our services for our students, we'd be happy to hear and implement some new things. And so you can feel free to jump on our website. It's listed at the bottom, oakland.edu/BIS. And again, there's our contact information. We're happy to chat with you soon. So thanks for joining us today. It's been a total pleasure. Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you. We really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video and hear about what we've been doing in our office. And please feel free to reach out to us with any questions or further discussion.